All right. All right. So welcome everyone to today's webinar. This is our second time being with Archi Institute. We had one earlier this year with them. It went well. So we're doing another one just to bring up more information to do have upcoming classes again for later this year and as well as beginning of next year. I'm joined here with Kate Bowen, who is program manager for AgVets. Also with Tony Lattner and Laura Fairchild with Archi Institute. Okay, if you want to start off by introducing FVC, and then we can go on with the presentation.
Sure. Well, welcome to the Farmer Veteran Coalition webinar. We're doing these a few times a month. I am a program manager for our AgVets program, which is an apprenticeship program. The Farmer Veteran Coalition has chapters around the country, and we do a lot of grassroots apprenticeship programs, but this one is officially with Archi's Dairy Grazers Apprenticeship, Rodale Institute, and Texas Battleground to Breaking Ground through their Texas A&M University. So this program allows people to who may have had no farming experience at all, who are just transitioning out of the military, who or later on in life want to get involved in agriculture, a real immersive opportunity to learn more. And if you're interested, you can go to our Farmer Veteran Coalition website. We have underneath our programs tab an AgVets informational page, and you can reach out. So if you're interested in this program, reach out to us, and we can get to know you, get to know your needs, and make sure that you're interested in a program that meets those needs. We can help you with your business planning, and getting started, either running your own business in ag or working for someone else in the ag field. So I'm excited to get started. We've got Tony in the greenhouse, and we've got Laura, and they're going to be presenting about this incredible program that we have through Archi's Institute.
And then real quick before we get started, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat, in the Q&A. We'll answer them as we go, as well as at the end, we'll have time for more questions. But yeah, Tony, take it away.
All right, thanks, Diego. Thanks everyone for taking the time to kind of sit with us for about a half hour to an hour. Quick background about myself. I started working for Colin and Karen, who own the farm, about 2012. I've been teaching the program for about 10 years now. And I'll go ahead and kind of, the way I'll set this up is I'll give you a background on how the farm got started and then how we started the educational piece of it. So if we can go to the next slide, Colin and Karen started this farm, or they actually bought the property in 2006, not to farm, but just because they liked the property itself. About 2.5 acres up north of San Diego, probably about a half hour. You guys can see in the background, it's pretty green there, but we are in the Southwest, so we don't get a lot of water. So a lot of times it's brown. But they bought the farm because they liked the area, not intending to make it into a business. But they realized with the avocado trees they had on the grounds here, they had about 220 avocado trees that they could sell those and make a profit. And so they started doing that for a few months. And what they realized is that the water, at least here in San Diego in the Southwest, is super expensive. And so their water bill, they got their first one, was for about $1,000. And Colin and Karen had thought it was for the whole year, but that was for the month. And as soon as they realized that, they realized, well, we can't farm this way, so we have to pick a sustainable model. And so what they decided to do is put all the avocado trees, which is about 300, all on drip irrigation and micro sprinklers, but then also start to dabble in the hydroponic world, which is growing without any soil at all. Because they knew with the property they had that they could make a profit out of becoming a farm. And so they wanted to keep the trees, but they knew they had to become a sustainable farm. And mainly what that means is you're not exporting any resources. So you're not taking too much than what you're giving back. And so that led them into the hydroponic world. 2-second intro on that is that basically there's no soil involved, and all the water that we use is recycled. And so it's a closed loop. So if we compare it to soil growing, we save about 93% of the water compared to growing in soil versus growing through hydro. And so with the Southwest and the cost of water, that's what led Colin and Karen into that route. And so what you guys are seeing in the picture, there's a small greenhouse lower left. That's about a 35 by 60 foot greenhouse. They started there. They started to do some leafy greens, and they were selling the Whole Foods Market, which is a local organic store. They're kind of a nationwide thing now. and they were doing really well with it. And so they built the large greenhouse, which is the one in the background there. That's a 35 by 110. And that one, after paying a salary and paying for all your operating expenses, will net around 40,000 a year. And that's around 4,000 square foot structure. So it's pretty small, it's about a tenth of an acre. The property itself is about 2.5 acres. So it's a pretty small in the scale of farms. But they knew if they were going to farm on here, it had to be a high density crop and very efficient way of farming, of course, because of the cost of water. And so I kind of led them to realizing that they could make a career and a business out of a farm of 2.5 acres. Being the Colin was a veteran, he wanted to find a way to teach veterans how to farm and civilians on a very small footprint without having a background. And so they started the program. It was called VSAT originally, and we changed the name to SAT, Sustainable Agricultural Training. And it's something that we've had the program going now for 15 years, and I've been on board for about 11. And so we teach students ideally how to go from seed to market. We're expecting they don't have a background in farming at all. But when they graduate, their capstone project is to present to a panel. And if they choose to, they can take the business plan that they've made during the course and use that to speak underneath to start their farm. We've had probably over 500 graduates now. I would say close to 200 plus have started some type of business, some in the farm sector, some just for business in general. They range from opening up a restaurant, flying drones for farmers and pest control, opening up a smog shop, opening up a deli. We had one student just open up a butcher shop. And so it ranges, the ag sector is obviously really huge, but it ranges kind of a wide spectrum. So the idea of the program was to train anybody who wants to become a farmer or an entrepreneur in the ag sector on how that all works, including how to grow product, but mainly how to understand your business plan, how to write a P&L statement, how to do your cash flow statement, your balance sheet. And if you can't run the operations of your farms, you're going to be shut down in a year or two. So we knew we had to focus on how to meet the market demands, but also on the growing side, because most of the plants will do their thing and grow as long as we give them what they need. But the idea is that we want our students to be entrepreneurs, be self-employed, and so it's something that that's kind of our main goal of the course. And so what you guys are seeing, if we go to the next slide there, those are the NFT channels. Those channels are where we go to basil. Currently, we're doing basil, Persian cucumbers, and heirloom tomatoes. The basil is what we used to do only, but the cucumbers were out of demand from our current buyers. And so we currently do more cucumbers than we do basil. And then in the greenhouse, you guys can see behind me, this greenhouse is the latest greenhouse. This is close to an acre, so it's around 40,000 square foot structure. And this, if we did only basil in here, we could probably do, I think, close to 600,000 plant sites per year. And so that's at full capacity because our basil plants in the hydro to be in and out with about 4 weeks. And so for comparison, if we do basil in soil, we get about 7 turns a year. And in the greenhouse here, we get about 17. So from a business standpoint, investing in the structure and the material does have a return on its investment. And if we go to the next slide, and what we have here is this is kind of a view of that graded pad. On a larger photo is the greenhouse that we're in now. That was just a field we had it to grade, and then the structure to build out, I think, was probably around 6 to 8 months. The greenhouse on the left was the second one that was built. We use a vendor, Agritech. Agritech has been great for us. They're on the West Coast. If you're on the East Coast or the Midwest, there might be a better vendor to go with because the biggest cost is to ship the stuff out there. And so, but we talked about the school, the school being started in 2008. One of the things that's helped us a lot is we work with the VA a lot. A lot of our students will use their GI Bill to come through. If they don't have their GI Bill, we can try to speak to other grants. FAC has been a great teammate of ours for years now. But it's something that we have students who have come through with the veteran through both rehab, which is BRNE now. We have a few grants per cohort, but Laura's kind of the expert on that. And so we have students come through usually between 10 and 15 students per cohort. And we run about 8 cohorts a year. The program itself is 6 weeks. It's pretty intensive. is we partner with the University of Minnesota, and that's mainly for our GI Bill students, but also an accreditation program that our curriculum is basically a college course. So you're taking a college course, excuse me, every 7 days. So your normal college courses, your 3-unit course runs about 14 to 16 weeks. You kind of smash all that into every 7 days. So the 6-week course, you're earning 16 semester credits for that 6 weeks. So you're doing about 240 hours of instruction. Almost all of it is online now. But we like to get people onto the farm. And so we have students who will take over the student labs here on the farm. And then we also have graduates that will come work on the farm for additional 6 to 12 months to kind of get mud on their boots. And so, but the online format has helped out a lot of students who aren't local and who can't make it out to San Diego. And so our students have ranged pretty much from maybe state to international. International stuff because of time zones, but we make it work. And then we record everything. And so anybody who can't make it to class, we can, pass that on to them. And so we run the 6-week course. Then also for people who have jobs, we do have a 12-week format, which is just the 6 weeks kind of spread out. And that's at night for the 12 weeks. And then we meet every Tuesday at 6 p.m. for about 3 hours. And so there's a lot of independent work. But when the students get through the program, they get through the final, they present to the panel. They have their business plan. Our students have used the USDA loans a lot. They probably have borrowed close to $3 million over the years. The loans can range from as small as $5,000. The largest loan we've had a graduate take out is close to $300,000. The FSA, which is the lending arm of the USDA, has kind of their own bank in a way. And they require that anybody who wants to apply for these loans needs to have 1 year of experience. And so it's something that we get that 1 year, or the students get that 1 year with the 6-week course, because they audited our curriculum and said that's definitely a year's worth of experience. So most of our students can apply for those loans. The USDA is where we tend to see students for ag loans if they need them. And that's mainly because the rates are subsidized. And so the rates usually range between 1% to 5%. They're pretty high right now, but I've seen them as low as 1%. So it's been great. So next slide. And so the actual work itself, the first few courses will get into the growing side. So we get into organic growing, what that looks like, the hydroponic side, your nutrient solutions, how plants respond, what they need. We get into controlled environments, which is what we have here with the greenhouse. So we can control the heat, the cooling, those little beige kind of curtains you guys see that are kind of scrunched up. That's the energy curtain. What happens when it gets too hot or too cold, those will open up and it's like wearing a jacket. So it keeps the heat in, or it'll create shade to keep the house cool. And so that's a big part of the course. And what it does for us, and applies even more for everywhere else, we guys have wet weather, snow, and so on, is that the plants are in kind of a shelter in a way. They're always warm and they always have nutrients and water available. And what that does is that allows us to always be growing crops 12 months a year. So we don't ever have to shut down really. It does get slower in the wintertime because the days are shorter, but we can supplement the lighting and kind of trick them into thinking it's August. And so that's one of the things that we teach here, is that with these controlled environments, you're able to turn products to profit every single week. And most of your buyers will like that because they're not having to switch their buyers compared to July to January. They can have a buyer that they're every month of the year. And so that's a big part of the course. And then we used to work with Cal Poly out here out west, and University of Minnesota wanted to bring us on. So we've been working with them for a long time. And one of the things that the students like is that when they leave the 6-week or 12-week course, they have transcripts, and the transcripts are official. So you get 6 grades for each format. And so if you're looking to get into any type of ag degree, or you want to do your master's degree, whatever it is, you have transcripts there that will transfer over to most schools if they accept them. And it's something that worked out great. Some students are really focused on the business side and aren't too concerned with the higher education side of stuff. And so that's fine too. I would think that most of our students want to be business owners, or the business owners are ready and they kind of want to level up with their knowledge base. And so it's something we definitely get a big mix of what the students are trying to get. But the idea is we usually we'll graduate 95% of the students. We do have students that find the curriculum maybe a little bit too much, or life happens and they have to drop out. If that happens, we always try to get them back in the course because we want them to graduate. And it's something that if students find that the 6-week course is a little bit too intense, we transfer them over to the 12-week course. So we kind of, our whole goal is if you're here, we want to get you through it. We're not trying to fail anybody, but the idea is you still need to meet the standards of the actual course itself. So, next slide. All right, and so this is just a picture on the left here where we, pre-pandemic, which was feels like 100 years ago, we were in class there. They're taking their final. It's something that format worked great, but we feel like with the online format too, bringing in the on-site time is kind of a good mix for everybody. And then one of the things we try to do is if you're not local, we kind of give you plans and instructions and videos on how to build your own hydroponic kit at home so you can grow during the actual course. And so you kind of see how things work, you know, and we'll talk about, and the thing for us is we definitely want face-to-face time online. We're not one to kind of put all the material out there and check in with you in 6 weeks. We have classes twice a week for about 3 to 4 hours each class. And we usually address some core questions. We'll have usually bring in experts to speak with you guys. I'm definitely not the expert, and so we have a former buyer from Whole Foods who comes and talks to you guys about bringing your idea to market, and kind of what buyers will look for. But we have someone come in and talk about trademarks and how not to steal them, and what happens if you get a cease and desist. We talk about if you're going to start a restaurant and food safety. Food safety is a big part of the course too, because most of your buyers are going to want you to have some type of food safety certification. And so we have an instructor that comes in and teaches that course. A lot of it's done on your own time, but he does have to proctor the test. And that certification is at the managerial level, which allows you to teach your own employees. And so it's something that we found our students that enjoy that part of the course, because if they're selling product of any sort to any buyer, they're going to want to have some type of certification. I know through us, recognized in all states, I think except for North Dakota, I can't tell you why, but it's something that, I mean, it's a big part of the course. And then on the right there, there's some drip irrigation that we were doing when we did have the field here. Drip irrigation is a big part for us on the farm for the crops that we do have in soil, because being that the cost of the water is so expensive, we can't just flood the field anymore. And so I know San Diego County itself has the most expensive water in the U.S., and that's mainly because we don't get enough rainfall, so we got to buy everything. Either it comes from the Sacramento Delta or Colorado, and then there's that whole issue with Lake Mead that's kind of been fixed this past year. But it's something that, being that water is just not something we have a lot of here. I think we get between 8 to 12 inches a year. And I know some states will get that in a few days. So it's something we have to kind of work around that. So next slide. And this is kind of a breakdown. We talked about the hydroponic technology. We cover everything from growing leafy greens and hydro to fruiting crops. The farm here is an organic farm. And it's something that we do teach organic methods and practices, because for any grower that wants to get into that sector, the profits are just a lot higher. I know for us, if we do bell peppers conventionally, the grower will probably get about $1.50 a pound. If they're going organically, it's close to $4 a pound. And so even from a profit standpoint or a business standpoint, even if you don't eat organic, that's fine. But as a business standpoint, it might be a good avenue to go into if your market has, space for it. If you're in a rural town, stay, from the East Coast, it's something that might not be as popular, but somewhere in here in San Diego, where a lot of people have a lot of disposable income and they want to buy that premium product, it's something that you learn here that you can take advantage of. The irrigation planning, we do a lot of that. We talk about organic compost teas, because originally at the farm here, all the crops were fed with organic compost teas, and what's in that. For us, it's the most cost-effective way to feed crops. But now at our current scale, it takes too many man hours to make that compost tea. So we switched over to it's a fermented colloidal molasses that we buy by the 270-gallon tote. And for us, that works a lot better, because to brew compost tea for a structure this big, you probably spend close to 30 hours a week for us, which is not worth the man hours on that. So the greenhouse design, we have a project that the students will design a greenhouse. present their designs to the class. We talked about the plant science and the food safety, market analysis. We're pretty heavy on helping the students figure out where the void is in their market, because if you're growing a crop just because you want to grow it, you're probably not going to do too well. But if you can find out what's in demand, it's something that your odds of success are just a lot higher. Farm ownership and management. You have a few courses on how do you run a farm, how do you pay your employees, how do you not bounce checks, and so on. Because the idea is a lot of times when you're growing crops, you're not getting paid every other week. You're getting paid once or twice a year. And so how do you manage all those, all that payroll until you have sold your crop? And so it's something that, how do you work with that? And so your cash flow statement is something we hit hard on, because you need to be able to manage that so you're not bouncing checks and you can pay your employees on time. And in the business plan, we use a software called Live Plan, LIVE. It's something that assumes you know nothing about it, but we do certain chapters every single week. And then when we get to week 6, you present that plan to a panel, kind of like Shark Tank, where everybody's nice and there's no money involved. But the idea is that you get feedback, like, does the business make sense? Is there things I can kind of tweak here and there? But the business plan itself is a living document. And so it's never really done. But the idea is we want to give you guys a good foundation that if you decide to make that leap, you tested the market, you've seen what works, your funding is there, and so on. And so that's something the business plan kind of makes you or forces you to figure out what's really going to work. And then we talked about the USDA loans. Loans is something that a lot of students don't want to do loans, which is fine. We tend to tell the students and the graduates to try to keep their cash on hand. And if you can get loans at a very low interest rate, it's not a bad way to go. And the FSA has been great because most of your banks, your conventional banks, Bank of America, Chase, and so on, as a startup, will not lend you any money, especially because you don't have any past P&L statements to say, here's how the business has worked past 3 years, because most of our students are starting fresh. And so it's something that most conventional banks won't for you anyways. So the FSA is one that takes that risk because they want more people to grow. And so they're willing to take on that risk at the subsidized interest rates. And sometimes they'll even allow you to delay your first payments until products are being sold. And so if you're doing an olive trees or orchard, and you're not going to be selling products for 9 to 10 months, they'll work with you on not requiring your first payment until the product is being sold. And I've seen payments be extended out until month 13. And so it's something that they definitely work with you on that. I'm not the expert on the loans, but it's something that we've had them speak a few times. And then most of those loans, the terms can range from 2 years up to 30 years. It just depends. They have loans for operations expenses all the way up to buying an actual farm. And so yeah. All right, next slide. All right, this is kind of just a background of what you get when you leave here. On the left there was a movie they did about the farm. So we felt like movie stars for about 6 weeks. It was Tribeca was the group that came out, and it was funded by Paramount, I think. And it's something I'm sure in Laura's email, it'll be down at the bottom there. But it's a great little background. You guys can watch this in more than 15 minutes, I think, of kind of how the farm got started. We're open to everybody, to veterans and civilians, but we obviously, the veterans are focused in the beginning, and that was mainly because the veteran population unemployment rate was so much higher than the civilian side. And so Colin and Karen wanted to really focus on the veteran side, but we obviously are welcoming everybody here. And we've had students as far as Zambia come out here to take the course. So yeah, next slide there. All right, this is just kind of a graduating class. This is back when I think I had actual brown hair. It's all gray now, but that happens when you have students. And so Dwight there's in the center that looks like Santa Claus, and Karen and Diana in the background there, and Colin's on the far right there. I think this picture was probably 2015 or 16. But the point being is we try to kind of make this kind of a family, because once you guys are kind of in the network here, we don't want to lose contact with you. We want to see how we can help out, because we definitely won't do it for you. But it's something that if you're trying to acquire land or trying to figure out how the FEC works, trying to figure out how the FSA works with the loans and stuff, we usually have the network and the contacts that kind of point you in the right direction. I've had students call me, 8 years after they graduated, wanting help with the business plan, and that's not a problem at all. And then we've actually had students come back through the course free of charge once they come through to get a refresher on different parts of the course. If they come back to audit the course, that's fine. They want certain parts of it. But once you're kind of in the family, we want to try to help you out as much as we can, whether it's just trying to find employment or trying to start your farm. If we can't help out, we can try to point you in the right direction. And most of our graduates will take advantage of. We do have, I don't know what we call it, but basically discounts to about 30 vendors on products that an ag farm would use. Even Agritech, who's our greenhouse field over here, will give 25% off to our graduates. And so it's something that it can be a pretty substantial savings. And that's something that our graduates will take advantage of. So this helped out a lot. So, and the last slide there. And before I tap on this too, we've had graduate probably about 500 students. The cohorts we've done, I want to say we're close to 100 now. I think we're in the 90s. We do about 8 to 10 a year. But these are a few of the businesses that have been started. We can't put them all on here. And it's something that a lot of these students have great success and some have to fold. You know, it's the business world, and it's something that, you know, if you come to the course and you realize that farming is not for you, we've also done our job because we haven't led you astray into taking on $500,000 in debt, and you realize that it's just the wrong way to go. But the idea is that we want to set you up to be business owners within the ag world, and that's kind of our focus. But it definitely doesn't guarantee anything on that. Next slide there, Laura. I think we're getting close to the end here too. And so here's the dates. This is kind of Laura's kind of field, no pun intended, of the dates and the cohorts. And I'm not sure time-wise where we're at. I haven't been keeping a track here, but I think we're pretty close. But the idea is that, you know, we're basically a business school in the ag world, and we've been doing it for a long time. And so it's something that we're a great fit for a lot of people, and sometimes we're not a great fit. You know, we definitely have turned students away. They want to come through because they want to learn how to garden, and that's just not really what we do here. And so we definitely want to make sure it's a good match, and it's something that you know, if you kind of want to take on business ownership in the ag world, hopefully we're your first stop on that. So, yeah. And I don't know if Diego or Kate, if you guys need me to talk about anything else or anything specific, or if we can go into questions. I'm actually disposable here.
I think we could just go right into questions and how they get in touch with you guys and how the process works.
Laura, do you want to tap on that for a second?
Sure.
The application process?
Yeah. So of course, email me or call me with any questions. I'm happy to talk and answer as many questions as possible and go over all this information again that Tony just discussed. I enjoy doing that. Once you decide you're interested, you go to our website, and on the top left, it says register here. And then you're going to fill out a short application with the cohort date that you're interested in. And then once you complete that short form, an email is automatically sent to you called Steps to Enroll. And then there's just, you know, it has payment information, whether you're using the GI Bill, it has different other pieces of information. You will be registering through University of Minnesota, Crookston as well. And because you're going to be getting the transcripts from them. So there's a short application involved in that, basically just name, phone number, address, etc. And that goes direct to the registrar's office. And then you and I would just be in contact with kind of what we do in between signing up for the class and waiting for the class to start. So, yeah.
And we had one request, if you could slide back to the previous slide with the dates of the cohorts class schedule.
Yeah, so we have 2 night and weekend courses a year that are 12 weeks. And like Tony said, they're just spread, it's a 6-week information spread out over 12 weeks. So we have one starting next Tuesday. So there is a possibility of getting into that class if we complete all the enrollment steps by end of day tomorrow. And then the next 12-week isn't until February, but not too far off. And then we do have our next, and once again, for the night and weekend class, the Zoom meeting times are Tuesdays from 6 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then for the 6-week day class, our next one starts October 16th. And then we take Thanksgiving week off. And then after that is January 8th. But the day class is Monday, Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And you'll have homework that's due every Friday, a final exam due the last week, and the business plan the last day of class. Does anyone want to unmute themselves? And does anyone have any specific questions for Tony or I?
It doesn't seem we have any at the moment, but what about, I know Tony talked about funding and stuff, but how can, for veterans, how does that work? And how can they find funding for these classes?
Yeah, so if you're a veteran and you have not exhausted your GI Bill, usually when you're transition out, you get 36 months. And I know sometimes people use that or assign it to their children. So if the GI Bill has not been exhausted, the class does take two months of your veteran education benefits, and then you will receive the stipend during the course. And if your GI Bill has been exhausted, then I have a wait list for grants that become available. And the Farmer Vet Coalition has been very generous with grants, but I do have a long wait list. I mean, not too long. We could definitely get some in 2024. And you never know, at times when more funding becomes available, they could reach out to us or other organizations and let me know there's funding available, and then I'd go down the grant wait list. So there's been times in the past where we'll find out some funding's available, and then, I'll reach out to a few people and get them into a class. So it's always good just to complete the enrollment process and get put on that grant wait list. And for the grant, it is fully paid for. And if there's no grant available and there is no, you have exhausted your GI Bill, then the price of the class is based on the 16 semester credits from UMC. So they set the pricing, and on the 16 credits, it's $6,081. Every cohort, we have 2 scholarships available for 50% off, which people use quite often, because when you think about that, it's just a small investment to start your farm. I know when I've started businesses in the past, I put a lot more money than that into figuring out how to get things up and running in the right way and have all the resources possible. So some people pay the full price and others will take advantage of the scholarship. So I also just have a list of people that are interested in scholarships as well.
And then also, there's also funding available, not just for veterans, but for anyone in general, right? This indeed, like these scholarships and stuff.
Yeah, so that's, so the class price that I mentioned is for non-military, and the scholarships are available for both military who have exhausted their GI Bill or can't access a grant, as well as non-military.
Okay. And then once someone is enrolled to the classes, how's it typically start for them? What should they expect?
Yeah, so once the enrollment process is complete, I'm kind of in communication with the student to make sure all the pieces are complete. And then once everything is complete, I send out an email and say, you've completed all the steps. You'll receive an email from me 1 week before class, just as a reminder, and then also look for an email from Tony a few days before the first class with the Zoom link. And then nothing else needs to be done. All the course materials are housed online, and Tony will go over all the housekeeping for that type of information the first day of class. So there's really no preparation. There's no requirements or any other pre-education that you need prior to taking the course.
All right. And I believe that's all the questions we have for now. Let's see. There is one more. So must the course be done for college credit? I'm really interested in the business aspect of the course, but not really the credits.
Yeah. So you do, once you complete the course, you do get the 16 semester credits through UMC, and then you also get a certificate in sustainable agriculture, food safety, and hydroponics, which can be really useful. and especially when applying for loans, et cetera. So as far as the college credit, there's definitely people that aren't going to utilize that. And you would still get a grade for the class. So if you're not interested in your grades, you could just be absorbing all the information, but not struggling to get A's, for example, if you're okay, you know, if you don't really care about the college credit. Tony, could you better answer that?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that they can meet the requirements of the course and just not really focus on the academic side as much. They still need to pass the final and so on, but it's a little bit of an easier ride if you're not worried about the grades.
Yeah. And then Stephanie, I see that you had a question. Your partner is a veteran, you're not. Is there funding available for someone who is not a veteran? So if your partner does have GI Bill, we could run the program through him and you could both sit in on the class. We've done that for same households. But like I said, if there's no GI Bill available, then we could utilize one of the scholarships for 50% off the class price.
All right. And then, Kate, any questions from you that you might have?
Well, I guess just to share that if you do end up getting funding for Veteran Coalition through our AgVet grant, with that, you get case management that's individualized from Farmer Veteran Coalition too. So we can provide, you know, assistance and help depending on whatever your needs are. We really want to make every student that we scholarship, we want them to have a successful journey. So, you know, there's been cases before where someone's laptop died. And so we, you know, helped find them a replacement laptop to successfully complete the course, because most of our programs involve a pretty heavy online computer aspect. They're not all in person. So we want to make sure that our students are taken care of. So that's sort of the aspect that I'm helping on. So they would work with me, you know, as much or as little as they want. If they want to learn, you know, on the side, they want to learn more about pastured poultry, you know, I would connect them with pastured poultry resources to help supplement this and get them hooked up with people. If they're in a state that happen to have an active FVC chapter, we can connect them with, you know, resources right in their community. So that's sort of an added bonus if you do get funding through the Farmer Veteran Coalition when you're doing a program at Archi's.
And then could you talk briefly about the surveys that we ask the students to do? There's just really brief surveys for new students.
Yeah, so if you're interested in Farmer Veteran Coalition, you know, paying for Archi's or Rodale or one of the other programs, you contact us through the website, and that kind of gets us in the system, and you fill out just a very short intake, just letting us know what you're interested in and just connecting, getting your email address so I can contact you. And we have a new student survey. It's, you know, we try to keep the surveys really short. They've all been redone. And then there's a graduate survey, and then for students who have already gone through the program, we're still trying to capture them as well. And so we have an alumni survey. So we're just trying to kind of get data. So that helps us as an organization that relies upon getting grants for funding so that we can support these programs. We have to have some data showing that, you know, we helped people either get a job in ag or learn more about ag. And so that piece really helps us being able to get the funding for these programs in the future.
Great, thank you. Yes, and then post-graduation as well, we like to, like Tony said, help support our students. Both Tony and I are organic consultants. I've been an organic inspector for the last 10 years. So we've helped out farms that want to get certified organic as well. So that's kind of something we enjoy doing.
All right, I believe that is all the time we have today for our webinar. So thank you for the questions that you asked. Tony, Laura, if you have any final thoughts.
Nope.
Nope, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Tony and Laura, for the great presentation. Anything else, Kate? That'll be it. All right. So again, if you have any more questions, you feel free to reach out to Kate. Kate at farmecho.org in the chat. You can also reach out to Laura. Her email is out on the screen right there. And there's also our support email, which is support@farmecho.org. Feel free to reach out to us there as well. And this is being recorded. So yes, Michael is being recorded. So it'll be on YouTube channel within the next week or so. I'll have to do some editing to it, but yes, it will be viewable on our YouTube channel. If you just, let me go ahead and put the link to our channel real quick.
And we've been putting a lot of our webinars there. So there's lots of stuff if you're interested in learning more about the Farm Service Agency programs, like especially for veterans, getting your CCC 860, which is a form that helps you with getting crop insurance. We're going to do an organic certification webinar coming up, stuff about disaster programs in case something happens to your farm. So we're housing them all on our Farmer Veteran Coalition YouTube channel.
Yes, so all of our webinars, they're uploaded onto our YouTube channel. So there's a bunch more information there as well. So feel free to check that out. But that's all we got for today. Laura, anything else?
Last thought. I do get a lot of questions about the GI Bill from veterans and having trouble accessing it. We do have a VA rep for the University of Minnesota that works with all the Minnesota schools, and he's a great person to help people out in these situations. So oftentimes there'll be somebody that doesn't know how to access their VA account, or other people that might not have the full 2 months available, and he could work wonders around that and make it work for the class. So just also know that we have those options, that we have a contact at the VA for you to work with.
All right, thank you for that. All right, then I guess that'll be it for today. So thank you all for attending another webinar, and hope you have a great day. Thank you, Tony and Laura.